future active participles. But before we do that, we want to review, right? So it's been a little while since we did the perfect passive participle, and we see here a chart where we're going to eventually have all our participial forms. But right now we're going to worry about this one right here. The future active is what we want to learn. All right, future active, this one right here. Remember the perfect passive, how do we translate that? Yep, having been loved. And how do we form it? Pause the video. Hopefully you said it's the fourth principal part, because it is. So what would be the perfect passive participle of woco? Wocatus. What about video? Wesus, right? So, and wesus because we need our participles to be able to agree with nouns of any gender. Because I could have the man having been loved, I could have the woman having been loved, I could have the sword having been pulled from its sheath, I could have the yada yada bing bang, right? So you needed to be able to modify all nouns, and you also needed to be able to be a 2-1-2 adjective, because those nouns could be in any case. I see the sword having been drawn. I love the girl having been eaten by a shark. That took a dark turn. I apologize, but you get the gist, right? In both those situations, the noun that was being modified by the participle would be a direct object. So where else have we seen the fourth principal part come into play recently? Smart point if you get this one. Hopefully you remember what happens if I just put an essay here and I make this a matum essay. Now it's no longer a perfect passive participle, it's a perfect passive infinitive, right? So let's put this back to amatus. Using that comparison, what do we think the future active participle is going to look like using deduction if we see the comparison between the perfect passive infinitive and the perfect passive participle? Let's see if you get this. Hopefully someone maybe remembered that the future active infinitive is amaturum essay. And if you delete that essay, you're 100% right. That's the future active infinitive, okay? Sorry, future active participle, right? So again, we remove the essay, and that gives us our perfect passive participle and our future active participle. So there's no new real formation tricks that we're learning here. We already learned them. Okay, let's look at what this is going to look like in a sentence. Before we do that, let's remember how perfect passive participles worked. All right, so looking at the sentence, mark it off as we've been trained to do. See if you can remember how to mark it off. Pause the video here, I would recommend. All right, I did it for you. Now let's see if you did it correctly, right? I marked it off at kena and data, and I highlighted kena, which is the noun, and data, which is the participle that agrees with it. So if I know this is the participial phrase, right? Because anything in between are slices of bread. The participle in the word it modifies are the meat in the participle sandwich, which is the participial phrase. So it's the dinner, the optima cena, the best dinner, having been given by Cornelius, was praised by everyone. So what was praised? It was the dinner, which is the subject of laudata est, but the dinner, we're also just providing more information about the dinner with this participial phrase. It was a dinner given by Cornelius. Okay, so remember that format. Let's try a new example. All right, so if you haven't paused the video, I'm about to go, so pause the video now to try and work on this one. Box it off and such, and see which words agree with what. All right, here we go. Nikeros and Melissam visitaturas militum suum vocat. So Nikeros is nominative. Note that it agrees with visitaturas, which we notice is our future active participle. So we highlight these two. Again, they're going to work as the bread of the sandwich. Melissam is in the middle. So it's Nikeros about to visit Melissa, calls his soldier. The suis miles, qui facturus, or qui faciet, se faciet lupum, or make himself into a wolf, right? But just to be clear here, I messed that up actually. I don't have time to go back and redo the whole video. We haven't learned how to say he will become a wolf, but it would be fiat lupus because we're renaming it. Sorry about that. All right, so just looking for the full translation now, it would be Nikeros about to visit Melissa calls his own soldier. All right, and so we see again how the participle is going to agree with the word that does its action now rather than receives it, because again, we go back to here, we notice it's future active. So here, amatis, the word that agreed with, received the action. Now it's doing the action. I know this is maybe still confusing, so we're going to do a little bit more practice. Before we do that, just a base translation of the future active infinitive. Going to verb, about to verb. That's our base translation. So let's look at it in a couple more sentences. Pause the video to work on these. Let's see, did I do these yet? No. So, all right. Will not churus essay and we're, right, are going to be the word, our participle and the word that it modifies. In sentence 2, we have, where's our participle? Portaturos. That is going to agree with servos. Where's our participle here? It's ankylis and ambulaturis. So you see I gave you multiple, right? The participles, again, can be of a variety of cases. And then if you translated these, you can try translating them now that if you got anything wrong. The translation is going to be the man having been about to wound the wolf. So he's about to wound the wolf, going to wound the wolf, is bitten. Makes sense. You know, don't mess with the wolf if you can't handle the teeth. The next sentence, the cook called the slaves about to carry food, kibum, to the guests. Maybe there's something wrong with the food. He wants to stop them. And then coquus dot porcum gives the pig ankylis ambulaturis in triclinium. The maid's about to walk into the dining room. All right. Hopefully these walkthroughs helped. I've also given you some sentences to practice on your own for additional practice, and they're going to mix both perfect passive and future active together. We'll talk more about this next class. All right. See you soon.